think my bio needs updating. My boy is in fact in year 1, so and in fact I actually spent an inordinate amount of time at this venue with my children, so it's quite nice to come in a different capacity. But thank you so much for having me today. In fact, when I reflect, the last time I was at this conference speaking was in 2019. And before I start my presentation, I think it would be remiss not to acknowledge that, over the last few years as people, we've really had to confront the challenges of our own, personal circumstances. Nothing in the last few years, has been normal. We have really experienced a huge transformation in our work and also our personal lives, and kind of the pace of digitalisation has rapidly accelerated. The pandemic has certainly hastened that shift towards the digital economy. With advertisers as well, we really rush to kind of adapt strategies to reach different consumers with these newly forged behaviours. However, people no longer kind of go to work into an office and work there during the day, and personal time is certainly not restricted to the weekends and evenings. And all these kind of well thought out pre-pandemic strategies, pre-pandemic consumer journeys, completely flipped on their heads. Think about it. How many of you in this room have done maybe one of the following during the day, during work hours? Maybe washing, cooking family meals, doing some online shopping, grocery shopping, booking your children's lunches in at school. Sound familiar at all? Getting a few nods. All obviously for your personal life and also while working. So that leads us to kind of wonder, is there a new consumer journey? Other advertisers as well, adapting to this journey. And so Microsoft Advertising, we did ask ourselves, we need to find out a little bit more about this. So with the help of Forrester researching, we talked to over 5,000 consumers and 1,300 advertising executives. And they shared what frankly was some incredibly insightful kind of research and output deliverables from this. We discovered a new behaviour, the Workday Consumer, and from there identified, let's say, emerging personas to help advertisers reach these evolving consumers. The Workday Consumer. So who is the Workday Consumer? So look, in a nutshell, the Workday Consumer is a persona that embodies this new type of modern worker. That new modern worker that is heavily engaged on work PCs, works from home for the majority of the time, or kind of really embraces hybrid working and mixing work and personal tasks interchangeably during the day. So fueled by this kind of collision, this integration of work and personal lives during the pandemic, we found that 63% of people spend more time on their PCs than before the pandemic. And also this kind of, transition to kind of remote working, spawned an anywhere work kind of world, infusing work and personal lives together, converging, without that clear sort of stop and start. This might not be so surprising as well, 59% consider their work and personal tasks of equal importance during work time. And indeed, during the pandemic, we at Microsoft saw that Windows usage surged to more than 4 trillion minutes a month. If I may, let me just touch briefly on the Microsoft ecosystem. Microsoft powers an ecosystem especially geared for today's Workday consumer, helping people get the most important things done across work and across life. So it all starts with Windows. Windows is, let's say, a launching pad. It's key to creating, our content and services. The 1 billion people who use our services turn to Windows, frankly, to get stuff done, from the start menu to Windows search, and also our widgets and more. And the more people that we have using Windows, the more people we have using Edge, our browser, And also people using Edge do tend to keep Bing as their default and stay in the Microsoft ecosystem. This creates more opportunities, let's say, for marketers to reach their audiences on our platforms. Let me talk a little bit about Edge. We're working to make Edge the best browser for work and indeed for life. We offer Microsoft Search, which helps people find work files right from their browser, as well as curated shopping experiences, more experiential experiences we should say, like planning trip supports, research tips and more, all focused on building consumer trust and loyalty, whilst making the browser experience the best possible one it can be. And again, there's been where people are making tens of billions of searches every single month. Our strength in Windows and PC is absolutely key here, and there's a huge opportunity with an audience showing, for the most part, in fact often, very strong intent to make a purchase. We actually recently announced the launch of a further 32 markets. Our operation in Japan is also going incredibly well. And in fact, we're now live in 164 markets. So we bring together intent, demographic, behavioural and profile data with Edge, with Bing, with Microsoft News, with LinkedIn, Outlook.com, to frankly create deep audience intelligence. So for us, we are really positioned at that intersection between work and life. And those boundaries, of course, between work and personal life have certainly been blurred over recent years. So let's get back to talking more about those customers who are really balancing work and life. Okay, so the rise of the Workday Consumer continues with how people are ultimately thinking about work and personal tasks. I think one of the most profound outcomes of this research study was effectively, the integration of work and life has certainly disrupted that well-planned customer decision journey as we know it. 62% of people in our study said that they regularly research or purchase products and services during their work time. A couple of us already, acknowledged that in the audience. And we're also seeing that 33% are spending between 1 and 3 hours of those personal tasks during their work time, showing that there really is no more kind of 9 to 5, no more kind of separation there, no clear start and stop. I guess with the integration, of work and life, combined with that speed of digitalisation, people are able to access what they need quickly. Their expectations, have increased. They want ease, they want rapidity, but more importantly, they are in a productivity, mindset, making researching and purchasing products and services really a natural kind of action during the work day. And what I would say is what they are researching and purchasing, crossing some expected and indeed unexpected categories. And also when people are completing personal tasks during the day, our report says over around 3/4 of people are completing them, certainly on a mix of devices, but as we can see here, 69% of consumers are using that PC for work and personal tasks. Is it a PC renaissance? One would assume so based on these figures. I mean, think about it, I would say when I'm thinking about what I'm doing on a PC, I may reserve maybe the more complex tasks to using a PC because it's more convenient, right? It's more, logical. And I also want to take advantage of that productivity mindset during the day, so I'm able to get through my personal to-do list and my work to-do list as well, again, because it just becomes a really, really natural part of everything I'm doing on my day. Very, very true story, 2 small children, not convenient, but my washing machine broke, and I did spend some of my morning yesterday researching a eco-friendly, water-efficient, energy-efficient new washing machine on my PC, because that is something I needed to compare and research. Frankly, I did that during my work hours as well, because it needed to be done. So investigating this further as well, by looking at our own Microsoft first-party data and really deep diving into consumer research, we identified several different, let's say, sub-personas, based not necessarily on traditional characteristics like usage and demographics, but actually based on behaviours and attitudes. So let me take you through a few of these. So we have the empowered activist. Lots of information on this slide here, but ultimately the key takeaway is that empowered activists actually, their consumers, their spending decisions are ultimately aligned with brands, so they invest in brands that align with their values. Who else have we got? So self-care enthusiasts. So what they value more is their time spent, looking after themselves, looking after their families as well. They work super hard during the day, so time management certainly is critical, and they're always constantly multitasking between work and school and life and leisure activities. Who else have we got? So digital nomads, so location independent, really what they value is flexibility, and definitely taking advantage of this work from anywhere kind of trend that again is sort of symptomatic of indeed the pandemic. They work 100% remotely, they're able to travel constantly from place to place as long as frankly there is a working internet connection. So why is this important? With historical events, we do always see a change, let's say, in consumer behaviour, and indeed the pandemic was no exception. We're seeing the consumer journey completely evolve, get flipped on its head. We've seen the emergence indeed of the Workday Consumer. But I think, the main points to take away from this slide are that brands and advertisers have not yet adapted to these changing behaviours and have capitalised on that opportunity. Brands find themselves really stuck at using outdated consumer persona strategies here. Nearly 60% of brand decision makers actually indicated that their companies do not consider working mode or mindset when developing, target personas as well. The standard, demographics, device, channel preferences, and, for the most part, behaviour history when defining target consumer segments, they no longer work as well, these pre-pandemic strategies. And to truly connect, with buyers at a human level, one must really understand those emotions that really drive buyers' decision-making. Another interesting stat in here, 57% of brands feel that they are not using the right combination of digital advertising tactics to target their consumers. Brands are not prioritising nuances like where, and how consumers are researching and purchasing online. What kind of tasks are they doing? What kind of tasks are they undertaking? What sort of mindset are they in as well? So how are brands, today accomplishing this? This presents a huge opportunity, I think, to the industry to really stay on top of the evolving, journey by kind of working towards really thinking deeply and kind of beyond traditional pre-pandemic strategies and focusing on kind of mindset and work mode. What people are doing, what are they thinking, what are they doing, or the risk ultimately kind of those strategies becoming entirely redundant. But why is this also important? So we've seen, again, from these personas, the enthusiasts, self-care enthusiasts, digital nomads, the activists as well, that the Workday consumer is indeed seeking purpose, shared values. Values is critical, and also balance, no matter what task they're accomplishing, whether it be personal and whether it be work. And the reason I want to bring this up here, today is that, this thinking, for me, really is a big signal, as to the mindset of the new consumer generation. The decision drivers, for how people decide, which brands to use, which brands to invest in, has really become more of a, if I may, an affair of the heart, right? It's about authenticity. It's about standing up for something and critically, following through, doing what you say you will do. So for everyone who identified themselves as a Workday consumer, my question to you is, what do you value? Health, love, family, community, freedom, connection, all of these very important values. But no matter where we are around the world, we've all been experiencing, the sped up transformation of what matters most to us. So what do we value? global events and also local events that affect us all, are pushing us to change and to choose, asking us, begging us to ask ourselves really quite existential, questions around, what really matters to me, who do I support, what do I spend my time on. Life, has been really shaping how people prioritise things. It's been shaping how we spend our time and what we spend our money on. In other words, what we value. And as a result, whether we realise it or not, people have reset and reinvested in the values of their choice and the actions indeed they take in their personal and business life. So the guiding principle and where everything comes from is purpose. Companies that lead with purpose are more trusted and loved. I think about Microsoft's journey to purpose. Indeed, it was not an easy one. Back in 1975, we had an entirely different mission to put a computer on any desk in any home, right? And that kind of ambition, that competition, that really fueled us in the beginning. Actually, over the last, before Satya Nadella took over as CEO, actually really hurt us and actually caused a paralysis around our creativity and actually output. And it wasn't until Satya Nadella turned to us, 220,000 employees, and said, we must rediscover our soul. And now our mission is one of empowerment, to empower every person and organisation to achieve more. But the real question is, coming back to this, how do you bring purpose to the front and centre of your advertising? If you again look at the history of Microsoft, I'm going to take Xbox as the example, our marketing always prioritised products, features over product value, as in what it meant to people. We go into great pains to talk about the tech, the specifications of a PC, thinking that would be effectively enough to make our consumers buy them. That's probably why we were characterised as that nerd in the Apple ads in 2007. And it wasn't really until pretty recently, our ads were still taking that line of, all of the things that they could do from a product perspective, as opposed again what they really meant to others. Think about the Xbox ad from around 5 years ago. It was all about the games you could play, the interactive voice control and the compatibility with other media. But the thing is, it wasn't a bad advert at all, but it was overtly product focused rather than focusing on the story about the value that this would bring to the consumer. Let's have a look now at the most recent example of an Xbox ad. Please play the video.
Family means a huge amount. It's lonely when you can't meet with your family as regularly as you want to. We've really not seen a lot of our grandchildren. When they were younger, we were a much closer family.
My granddad, with his knee injury, can't run around with us in the garden anymore. We stopped doing the things that kept us really close.
I can't connect with them in the way I used to. Hi.
Hi, love.
It's all new but very exciting, Dylan. I'm relying on you to get me through this process. Initially, I was nervous and not quite sure what I was doing. Shall I change my car? How do I start the car moving? Right trigger to go forward. Hang on, 100%. Take my eye off the road. How you doing, Dylan? You right?
Good, thanks, you. I think the best way to improve a relationship is to learn something together. What did you do today, Grandpa?
We went for a walk this morning, very nice walk. I'm on deck. How long were you on your bike today?
Oh, it was just like a little training session for 2 hours.
Now we're getting time together. I think we achieved a small breakthrough there. Uh-oh. Come on, stop laughing.
To be fair, he got good enough at Forza to actually play. Oh, what? Oh, you beat me, no! Oh, that's actually not fair.
Oh no, what have I done?
Around my age, when you're with your friends and you're out, what did you do?
When I was a young man, I was in the Sea Scouts.
It's been mentioned, but I've not heard the details, so I'd like to know the details. Grandad, when did you learn to drive?
When I was 17.
Oh, and you passed first time. Okay. I'm scared of not passing and then having to like retake them. It's never not worth teaching someone something, especially with your granddad. Teaching him something where you're getting something more out of it. I'm not sure if I want to go to uni or not.
When I left school, the same age as you are now, it's not just about straightforward education. I don't think you're ever too old to start trying something.
Did you do it? So close. We haven't had that dynamic in a long time. Do you want to play this time next week, or are you going to be busy?
What's our diary for next week? It's a chance that I didn't realise I might be able to have. I like to think it's something we could carry forward for many years.
Values, utility, connection, family, but there is more to this. Global consumers are 4 to 6 times more likely to trust, buy, champion and protect those brands with a stronger purpose rather than a weak one. And this is the value of purpose. I will buy into you, I trust you, I recommend you, and I protect you. And we are talking about brands here, but I think we could also see a lot of value too if we had a clear and bold purpose for ourselves. So why is this also important still? The final reason I wanted to share this setup about the Workday Consumer is because the Workday Consumer is not just a consumer we want to target from a marketing standpoint. These are real people. There are people that you also employ. So what does that mean for the culture that you create in the organisation that you run? These are incredible stats, in demonstrating that work and life has ultimately changed for the long term. I, for one, have just come out of half term. I'm sure many of you are the same, trying to kind of juggle looking after my children and also working. True story, again, my 5-year-old kind of came in when I was on a conference call, that's happened to many of us, and said, "Mummy, why are you working?" Now, of course, I would be ridiculous to try and say that my 5-year-old was entering into some sort of existential exchange with me about the value exchange between work and what we give back, right? But it did make me feel, why am I working? Like, why am I doing this? Why am I stretching myself? Why am I not spending time, with my son? Culture, shaped by our values, is a source certainly of shared meaning and common connection. It does create conditions, for a movement. And where I work, what I would say is that our values, they do guide the company-wide decisions, but they also guide our individual decisions as well. And those values certainly do rev the engine of our leadership principles around clarity, around energy and success as well, striving to bring out the best in one another and inspiring everyone else to do the same, if you think about kind of our new mission, as already mentioned. And so by tying these two considerations today, the Workday Consumer and the value of purpose, it's all about considering, how as a business as well, you operate to ensure the what and the how is going to maintain and drive new talent. After all, your employees are consumers of your companies too, and they are buying into working for you via shared values, via purpose and meaningful work. So I just want to bring this all together. I'm aware we're certainly at time, lots of takeaways here. But marketers today need to really consider the Workday Consumer, is certainly within their audiences that they are trying to reach today. These are the same people. They have found new ways to kind of care for their families, to adapt, to really kind of take advantage of hybrid working. That traditional 9 to 5 is gone. It certainly took the chaos of the pandemic, it's really to shake off that legacy, let's say, of the industrial revolution. Now brands certainly have that opportunity to really stand out by understanding how their consumers, intertwine work and life and consider those maybe engagement opportunities, we should say, across the media landscape to connect with these customers and capture that demand when they're certainly in market. The consumer journey is flipped and there's no going back. Customers are continually certainly evolving their behaviour as well. brands, that hope things will change and maybe the return to the way they were, really do risk again becoming swiftly, redundant from agile, let's say, challengers who are able to cater to the new normal. Connect with those people, right, as they shift through work, between work and life tasks, let's say. The new personas I showed, show how audiences really mix work and life, but they also show what they value. So make your marketing purposeful. Purpose fuels that genuine connection. Purpose certainly is personal. It's all about shared meaning. So how are you allowing your employees to really live out their purpose in the organisations, in the cultures that you create? We spend an inordinate amount of time at work. It's what your employees deserve, so make it count. Thank you very much. I'll be around for the rest of the morning to answer any questions because I know we're at time. Thank you.